European prospects have become more and more common over the last 20 years. The entry of guys like Dirk, Vlade Divac, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and Kristaps Porzingis have taken the league by storm, and the NBA scouts have turned their minds to taking far more European players than they used to. But in a way, they still remain slightly unknown before they are drafted. For the most part, European players don't play in college, aren't on Hoops mixtape from age 12, and just don't have as much exposure as American players. This video will examine 4 European players that I expect to have a solid and even great NBA career after they get drafted. And the first European prospect I want to talk about for this year's draft is Ellie Okobo. Okobo is a 6'3" point guard out of France who boasts a 6'8" wingspan and has been playing in the number 1 French league, Pro A, for the last year. During this time, he averaged 12.9 points and 4.8 assists per game, all while shooting 39% from 3. These are very impressive numbers for a 20-year-old playing in a top European league against seasoned professional basketball players. But what grabbed most international scouts and fans' attention was when he dropped 44 points against the top French team and almost broke the record for most points scored in a game. These kinds of performances indicate a player who is ready to take on the NBA in a big way, and perhaps contribute immediately to a decent team. The first thing that stands out about Okobo is his poise on the court. A lot of young point guards play with a huge head of steam and use their athleticism to get into the paint and finish over the top of everyone else. This approach works well in high school and sometimes college, but when they get into the big league, they can't do this anymore, and it takes time for them to adapt to the play style of the NBA. Okobo won't have this problem as much. He plays with a smoothness that reminds me of a veteran NBA backup point guard. He takes his time in the pick and roll and won't force the issue using his athleticism all of the time. As a guard playing in Europe, he has become very good at using multiple screens to manipulate and warp defenses, as well as work out what coverage they will be using against him and how to attack them properly. He is also quite athletic and uses his speed to get past defenders and into the paint, where he can finish at the rim with a floater and even pull up for an 18-footer. Plus, he can shoot the 3 ball, which as we all know is key in the NBA today. Okobo also has the length to be a decent defender in the future and will be able to use his speed and wingspan to stay in front of players and get into the passing lanes. I project Okobo having a long career as either a solid starting point guard or a backup point guard who plays around 25 minutes a game, with the latter being the more likely option. Teams will be looking to pick him up as a late first round or an early second round pick and take a long look at him over a cheap 4-year deal. I wouldn't be surprised to see Boston take him with the 27th pick, as they need some more point guard options in the long term if they don't plan on keeping both Marcus Smart and Terry Rozier. The Los Angeles Lakers might also fancy him depending on their free agency plans, but they currently need a backup point guard for Lonzo Ball, and Okobo could also play alongside him on the court as well. Either way, I'm excited to see where Okobo ends up and how his NBA career goes. Next up on the list is Dzanan Muza, a 6'9" small forward out of Bosnia who has been playing professional basketball since he was just 15 years old. Like Luka Doncic, his exposure to playing professional basketball from such a young age has done him wonders and prepared him for a solid NBA career. Now, Luka Doncic is clearly the better prospect, and Musa doesn't have as high a chance of becoming an NBA star, but he's the perfect style of player to have a long career in the NBA and is therefore expected to go late in the first round. Musa is a lightning in the bottle kind of scorer. He believes in himself and has an enormous amount of passion to score the basketball. The first thing that helps him score so well is his quick first step. Most describe Musa as a below average athlete, but I think this is a bit of a misconception. He isn't the strongest of guys, he doesn't leap out of the building, but he is solid in those areas and has a great first step. Most scorers rely on that first step in order to create space and get to the rim or have enough room to rise up for a jump shot. And rise up for a jump shot, Musa absolutely will. The kid can score from every spot on the floor and is very, very dangerous with ball in hand. His release is very high and he rises up very quickly and uses that high, quick release to make it difficult to disrupt and block his shot. This scoring prowess led him to absolutely dominating at every single junior world tournament he played at. In the 2017 Under-17 World Championship, he averaged an incredible 34 points a game and set the record for the most points in a single game when he scored 50 points in just 27 minutes against Chinese Taipei. Now, this wasn't against the best quality opposition, but the same goes for a lot of high school and even college teams. Bottom line is, this kid can score. But the area that he struggles with the most is off-ball shooting. Musa can definitely do it, but he doesn't run that hard off the ball and isn't as adept at shooting unless it is in rhythm off the dribble. This will be problematic, as while he is talented, he definitely isn't going to be a top 3 offensive option for his first few seasons in the NBA. Teams will want to use him in spot-up situations and will hope to put him in the gym to learn to shoot threes at an even higher rate when spotting up. Then they will try and slowly unlock his potential as an NBA scorer, either leading a bench unit or maybe one day on a starting lineup on a good team. The ceiling is really, really high for Musa, and teams will be taking a good long look at him, and if they take him, you can rest assured that they will construct a long-term training plan to ensure his success in the NBA. And speaking of success, the next player we have is one you would have all heard about, Luka Doncic. He's been touted as one of the best European prospects of all time, and the hype surrounding him has resulted in him being covered to death. But there is a reason for that. Luka is an absolutely incredible basketball prospect, and I have been convinced that he is a top 2 pick for the last year. Recently, rumours have begun to swirl that the Sacramento Kings aren't as enamored with Doncic and might in fact take someone like Bagley, Jaren Jackson Jr., or even Mo Bamba over him. Now, these players are all fantastic, but if I was the decision-making seat for the Kings, I wouldn't even think twice about taking Doncic. He's a slam dunk, and I even think he might be a better prospect than DeAndre Ayton. People seem to forget that 6'8" shooting guards that can also play the point don't come along every draft. Doncic has the ability to run pick and roll, initiate NBA offense, and attack the basket downhill. But what has always been the most impressive thing about him to me is his 3-point shooting ability off of the dribble. Luka can rise up after coming around a screen and shoot the 3 at a high percentage, a skill that a lot of smaller guards in the NBA don't even have. This skill makes him deadly in the NBA, and when he's surrounded by elite NBA players and shooters, he'll have even more spacing to operate. In times in the EuroLeague, Doncic would get cramped in the paint as he didn't have the teammates to space the floor for him. He also didn't have the athletic big man to lob the ball to, and it really allowed teams to focus in on him on offense at times. So say he goes to the Kings. He'll be able to play alongside Willie Cauley-Stein as his big man, who is athletic as all hell and will be able to catch lobs from Doncic. He would also be surrounded in shooters in Bogdanovic, Buddy Hield, and anyone else they pick up this offseason. Plus, he would have De'Aaron Fox to help take the ball handling pressure off of him at times. Now, this team won't be perfect, but it definitely isn't a bad fit for a young player to come into the league to. Phoenix would be the absolute perfect fit with all their shooting and speed, but I think they are latched onto Ayton. But this is the beauty of Doncic. He can fit onto any team. He can play point guard, shooting guard, small forward, and even a little bit of small ball 4. He's a great off-ball player and can therefore sit in the corner or on the wing and attack closeout and shoots threes. But he can also be given the ball at an incredibly high usage rate and create for a team. In summary, Doncic is really good, and I think it is far more likely that these rumours are smokescreens in an attempt to leverage some kind of trade or to have Doncic slip to a team that really wants him. Either way, I am intrigued as to where he'll end up going in this draft and cannot wait to see him succeed in the NBA. The last player we're going to take a look at is Arnoldas Kulboka, the 6'11" small and power forward out of Lithuania. He isn't on the radar of a lot of YouTubers, journalists, or even draft experts, but he has a very high potential as a role player in the NBA. The first thing to really like about him is his size. At 6'11" with decent sized arms, he has the size to rise above most other 3s and 4s to get his shot off. He is skinny as all get out now, but he has managed to put on 7 kilos of mass in the last offseason. He could potentially bulk up a little bit more and allow him to better guard NBA athletes. And he isn't a terrible defender. He has decent instincts and good lateral quickness. Plus, his length allows him to recover from bad mistakes that he makes and block shots from behind or simply get back into position. But his upside is on the offensive end. He's a great 3-point shooter and will present a great bench option long term in the NBA if he reaches his potential. He also has a good handle for a player of his size and actually ran some pick and roll as a 6'11" ball handler. If he puts on some more size and continues to develop his skills, he could end up as a secondary ball handler on a bench unit that also spaces the floor, because he is a lethal 3-point shooter. In workouts, Kulboka has been absolutely draining threes and he's been working out with the Lakers as well as some other teams as they take a good long look at him and work out how good his shooting is and how high his potential is. Because shooting is a skill that is incredible in demand in the NBA, and players of his size and skill are very rare. Sure, he might not be the most athletic player. He might not be huge and is currently a little bit of a bad defender. but I'd throw him a lifeline with a late second round pick and giving him a 3 or 4 year deal for cheap and allow him the freedom and security to develop with NBA coaches. And that's it for my top 5 European prospects in this year's NBA draft. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more NBA videos. And let me know in the comments what you think of these and other European draft prospects.